My home group is the Principals Group of Raleigh. We meet every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 o'clock. On the first Tuesday of the month, we read and discuss the Big Book. On the second and third Tuesdays of the month, we read and discuss topics from AA literature that are common to all alcoholics in their quest for sobriety. On the fourth Tuesday of the month, we read and study a tradition in conjunction with each month. And if and when there's a fifth Tuesday, we'll study AA history. Thursday is our open speaker meetings, and when there's a fifth Thursday, we have a workshop. I do have a sponsor, and I do sponsor other men. Very grateful to be at an in-person meeting. I've given several Zoom talks, and it feels good to be in front of folks. And so the book tells me what I'm up here to do tonight is tell y'all in a general way what I was like, what happened, and what I'm like today. And hopefully through the course of this talk, I'll identify many points in my life where God was taking care of me even when I didn't acknowledge Him. And once I got into sobriety and got sober, that relationship with God was formed, and it has prospered over the years of being sober. So I definitely hope that I lay out a nice picture of that, because without God, I wouldn't be here today standing in front of you. So I'm not a spokesperson for AA. I don't get paid to give talks. I'm just another guy that AA has worked well for. I've went through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous and applied them to my life and tried to make it a way of life on a daily basis. So I'm going to give you my experience. So I'm going to take this coat off too. It's kind of warm up here. I made it up here with it. So I was born to two loving parents. I have an older sister that's 19 months to the day older than I am. Both of my parents were alcoholics. That for sure does not make me an alcoholic. I never thought it made me an alcoholic. At some point in my life, I started drinking and carrying on the way I wanted to. It had nothing to do with my parents. I'm a guy also that believes that I was born with alcoholism. I don't believe that, I caught it from anybody or anything like that. I truly believe I was born with it, because I needed a drink way before I took one, and I started drinking at a really young age. So I was raised in a small country town called Willow Springs. It's outside of Fuquay and Angier, and right at the Harnett, Johnson, and Wake County lines. Small town, no stoplights, one corner store in the town, and it was a good upbringing. I appreciate my childhood. Back then, just everybody was nice. I was raised with four-wheelers and dirt bikes and, golf carts and go-karts. So we just rode the countryside and had a good time with all the neighborhood kids. And, my dad owned his own business. So he made really good money. As a child, I had everything I needed and most of what I wanted. The only way I wouldn't get what I wanted is if I didn't act right, and I was in trouble. It's mostly when I heard no. Other than that, if I was being a good kid and I was minding my manners and doing what I was supposed to do, then I pretty much got what I wanted. And my parents, even though alcoholic, they raised me with morals and standards and respect and manners for my elders, and they taught me all the key components to being a good person, and how to be successful in life. And alcoholism, I put all that to the back seat once that got going good. But so my parents loved me. They loved my sister. My first, so as a little kid, like 5 or younger, I was already lying, and I was already cheating, and I was already stealing, and I was already selfish and just full of self. And I was that guy that, if I was losing, I was going to take the ball and go home. And I don't know what made me like that. I didn't see that within my household, but it was just the way I was. And I remember the first day of elementary school, my mother wanted to take me to the schoolhouse and see me in to make sure I got in there safely, and it was a big deal for her. And I I'd created all kinds of fuss, and I really didn't want her to, and I finally got her to give in to let me go up to the bus stop with my older sister and all the older kids. And my motives behind that was I stole a bunch of cigarettes from her the night before, and I wanted to go up to the bus stop and pass these cigarettes out to these older kids and smoke with them, and to gain their approval, one, and then, in the future they're going to owe me, number two. And at the age of 5, that was my thinking. So I was a little off already as a little kid. And, that would continue through my life. But, my dad was, he was one of two ways. He was either a happy drunk or he was an angry drunk. My dad really didn't show many emotions. I was taught not to show many emotions. You was happy or you was angry. And, so I grew up, and there was a lot of abuse in the house. I watched my mother get physically abused. Dad would get drunk and beat up on her, and, she'd get drunk and beat up on him. So, kind of dysfunctional household, now that I look back. But to me, that was normal. That's what I come up in. I knew that my parents loved each other. I knew that they loved us. I knew that we never went without food or lights, and my dad bought us a place to live. And, so that I thought that was the norm. Again, my dad owned a company. He owned a roofing company. He done very well. We had 2 acres of property out there in Willow Springs, and so our backyard was horseshoe pits over here, volleyball net, badminton net, trampolines. I had made my own track on the property for my 4-wheelers and dirt bikes, and it was a fun place. And after work, the guys, the crew would come home with my dad, and they would drink, and they would party on the weekends. And from a very young age also, I seen, and what put in my little brain was, I watched my dad be successful and work hard every day, and I watched him party hard at night and on the weekends. And so what I did is put partying and success in the same basket. And so I started school. I was very athletic. I was an overachiever. I wanted to be the best at everything I could be whenever I was doing it. I didn't have a problem finding friends and keeping friends. I didn't feel like I didn't fit in places I went. I hear from the podium a lot, people drank to feel a part of. That wasn't my experience. The sole purpose I drank was just to have fun for the first time. And so that first time came when I was 8 years old. It was summertime. My dad and the crew come home from work, and there's a lot of things in my story that is skewed, and I can't really put time frames on and stuff. But this day is just as vivid, and I remember it like it was yesterday. They come home and parked in the backyard, a pickup truck. Dad come in and got me and asked me, did I want to drink with him tonight? And I said, absolutely. I'd been waiting for my dad to ask me to come drink with them guys. I'd watched and I'd been the gopher for so long, man. I was ready to be a part of that. And I had my older cousin there with me that night. He was spending the weekend with us, and I ran inside and immediately asked him, hey, you want to drink with us tonight? And of course he wanted to drink, so we went back outside and walked over to the truck, and my dad opened this cooler, and it was lined with pints of Mad Dog 2020. Kiwi lime flavor to be exact. And my dad grabbed hold of one of them pint bottles and said, son, we don't drink this stuff for the taste, we drink it for the effect. And I didn't know what he meant back then at that exact moment, but what he did is he said, I'm going to show you how we drink this. And he took the lid off that pint bottle, threw it down on the ground. He turned that pint bottle up and brought it down empty. And at the age of 8 years old, a little boy in the backyard, I grabbed me a pint bottle, I twisted the lid off, I threw it on the ground, I turned that bottle up and I brought it down empty. And that was the first time that I felt the effects produced by alcohol. And I absolutely loved it. I can't tell you how much I drank that night. What I can tell you, and it also continued to happen in my life, is I drank until I passed out. My older cousin started getting sick. He went and caused some ruckus up the street. We had to go retrieve him and bring him back home. And I went to put him in my bedroom, and he started throwing up on my floor, and I started cleaning up the floor. I didn't want to get him in trouble. I didn't want to get in trouble, so I'm being the good younger cousin, and I'm cleaning up. He's throwing up more, so I get him laid down and get him off to sleep. And, man, my brain told me to go right back. So I went right back outside with the older crowd, and I drank until I passed out. Now, future drinking for me, what it looked like is I would drink until something came between me and the alcohol, whether it be the law, whether it be jail, whether it be running out, whatever the situation was, something had to stop me from physically from drinking, or I'd drink until I passed out. So fast forward now, obviously at the age of 8, I wasn't allowed to drink every day, even with, an alcoholic household. My parents wasn't having that. But I can tell you from that day forward, I drank every chance I got. I would hide some and steal some and swipe it and, steal the gopher, so it's pretty easy to get a hold to. And I drank every chance I got after that. And, I guess the real trouble for me started in middle school. 6th grade out in Fuquay. I started skipping school, started smoking cigarettes in the schoolhouse, started fighting. I wasn't good at it at first, but the more I fought, the more I liked it, I guess, and the better I got. So that was a problem. But, the way I was raised is my dad taught me as long as you don't throw the first punch and you're defending yourself, you ain't going to be in trouble when you get home. So I would either always manipulate the situation to get them to hit me first, or I would manipulate the story once I got home to convince my dad that they hit me first. Either way, I would try to manipulate the situation that would benefit me the most, and I'm only in 6th grade, and, my parents told me to do well in school, and they required me to make good grades, and, so when I got in trouble, and they took all my stuff away, and I was grounded, and I couldn't do anything, but, finished that school year out, and I think this was the first resentment that I had with my dad, and I didn't know it at the time, but, his commute was just getting longer and longer for work, and he's driving into Raleigh and Durham and Cary and Chapel Hill to work all the time, and, 45 minutes is turning into an hour and a half, and so what my dad ended up doing was putting our property up for sale out there and sold our land and our house out in the country and moved me right up into Raleigh on Millbrook Avenue. And let me tell you, from a country boy that run barefooted with no shirts on in the woods and had to come in when the street lights come on, you put me up there in the middle of the city, and it was, the folks looked different, they talked different, they made me put shoes on, they made me wear a shirt, and all this stuff, and it was a culture shock to me, and I didn't like it, and I couldn't bring all my four-wheelers and the ATVs. It was just a total different lifestyle, and so I started 7th grade up there, and that went horribly. I went to 4 different public schools in 7th grade, and that last one I got kicked out of. They put me out of public schools for good, which made my parents even more inconvenienced. They'd have to carry me, once 8th grade started, they'd have to carry me over to this alternative school. And I reckon there won't, but 50 or 60 of us in that whole school, and we'd get there at 8 in the morning, we'd leave at lunchtime. You didn't have to bring a book bag, you didn't have to bring pencils, you didn't have to bring anything, and you wasn't required to leave with anything. And I'm like, man, this school's all right. And so, I'm getting by there. You go in, you fill out your worksheets, and, just slide by and getting ready for high school. And, I remember probably halfway, maybe 3/4 of the way through that school year, my dad come and pick me up early. And again, I told you I only go from 8 to 12, so I'd never been picked up early before. And when the principal walked me around that schoolhouse, I seen my dad, and I could tell in his eyes something was wrong. And I didn't know what it was at that point, but he put me in the pickup truck, and he said, let's take a ride, we need to talk. And so I'm 12 years old, I believe, and me and my dad take this ride, and he explained that he had done some things that the law don't look too kindly to, and that he wasn't willing to own up to what he had done, and he wasn't willing to take the consequences of what he had done, so he was leaving. And of course, at 12, I didn't know what leaving meant. I've had my dad my whole life up to this point. He's the twinkle in my eye. I work with him on the weekends. I work with him through the summertime. He's already taught me a trade at this age. Got a little money in the bank already because I go to work with him. And, he was my everything. I mean, I'm a mama's boy, but my daddy was who I rolled with and who I learned from. He instilled the things that I needed as a boy and instilled in me. And so he's leaving, and what that looked like is back in this time, he got somebody else's information, Social Security card, birth certificate. He walked into DMV, and he walked out of DMV with his picture on somebody else's driver's license. I would highly recommend not trying that today because you'll be in jail real fast. But it was a different time, and it was literally that easy for him. So first place he went was Spartanburg, South Carolina. That was pretty easy to go see him. Meanwhile, back here in North Carolina, me and my sister's giving my mama we're giving her a run for her money. Mom's never had to be the sole provider. She worked if she wanted to, but she never had to. So now she's got both of us kids, and she's trying to take care of us, and she's working, she's paying the bills. And, it didn't take long, because when my dad went to Spartanburg, he carried himself with him there. And it wasn't long before he was in trouble there and had to flee from that town as well. And what that looked like next time was Rio Vista, Texas, which is a small town outside of Fort Worth. And that put him out of reach for us and me. So I'm starting high school soon. My dad's down in Texas. That father figure that I need, and I'm coming into teenage years. Those were the years I really needed my dad there, and unfortunately he couldn't be there. I didn't hold it against him later on in life. I understood. But anyhow, so my older cousin that I was telling you got drunk with me that first time, his mom and brother and himself had moved down to the coast, and they moved down to Carolina Beach, New Hanover County. And I went down for a couple weeks that summer just to spend some time, and I got down there, and I ended up really liking it down there. And somehow I talked my way into being able to move down there with them. And so that's what I did. And I got down there, and, my aunt was a mother or two already, a single mother or two. I make three. She's working all the time. So we didn't have a lot of parental guidance back then. We didn't have a lot of anybody telling us what we could and couldn't do. And I just think this is an important factor at Carolina Beach when I moved down there. The motto for that place was come on vacation, leave on probation. So you can probably imagine the type of people that lived in that town. Wasn't the most upstanding citizens that you could, gather in a town. And what that did was it made it easy to get alcohol. It made it real easy. I would just meet up with guys just like me, a little bit older than myself, and start running with the wrong crowd. I'm looking for that sense of security. I'm looking for, that guidance from men. So unfortunately, I got affiliated with some gang members, and that's what I did. And I got involved with that lifestyle. And, what that would look like for me is terrible over the next several years. I've done a lot of bad things to a lot of good people, done a lot of illegal stuff that, that just wasn't cool. And so I'm not going to harp on that stuff. It's just important. It was a big part of my life. And so starting high school, I was skipping school a lot. We were drinking before school. We'd make it to school late. Some days we wouldn't make it at all. And I had missed so much school that the school had called my mother and called my aunt and said, look, if he don't start attending school, somebody's got to own up for him not being here. Somebody's in charge of what this kid's doing, and he's got to be at school. So I didn't want nobody to get in trouble, so I actually started going to school and attending school. Got through the 9th grade year. They built a brand new school down near Carolina Beach, and it was Ashley High School. That's the school I graduated from. And, they strategically placed this school about a quarter of a mile. Any way you look was open fields, and they built it right in the middle of it. So it was almost impossible. If you went to that schoolhouse, you wasn't leaving again until it was time for you to leave, or you was getting caught. So really it was a gift, because what that did for me is once I got there, I just stayed there, and I kind of got in the hang of school, and I liked it. And, like I said, I didn't have a problem making friends. So I started enjoying school, and I started making A's and B's in school. And, that older cousin had asked me, why don't you come try out for football with me? And I'm like, I don't want to try out for football. I don't want to play football. And, oh, man, come on, please, come try out with me. And I'm like, no, you want to play football, so you need to go try out for football, and I'll just come watch y'all. I'll be there for you, but I'm not going to try out for football. I don't want to. So back and forth, I ended up trying out for football. Just to appease him. And I told him, I said, that's cool. You'll get accepted on the team. I won't. You'll be happy, and it'll turn out all the same anyway. Well, what ended up happening is I got accepted on the team as well. He did, I did. And what I figured out once I got involved into the sports, I figured out I liked it. I enjoyed doing it. They put me in the weight room. I started lifting weights. I started working out. And that same drive that I'd had, towards doing bad stuff, towards drinking, towards, doing what I want to do, I started putting that same drive towards football. And what I did is I got myself a starting defensive position and a starting offensive position. I was starting defensive end, and on offense, I was starting offensive tackle for kickoff return. And I'm not going to tell you what my coach said from the podium, but my main purpose and my whole goal on both of my positions was just hit the person with the ball as hard as you can. And when you're coming off that defensive end line, your whole objective is to mess their play up. Go get them. And I said, well, I can do that. And so I had fun with that. And what that did for me is when game nights would come, the only way I can explain it is a natural high. I would get this feeling when that football is kicked off and we start running down that field. It was just such a great feeling that I had only achieved through alcohol. But now I'm achieving it without it. Unfortunately, my football career was short-lived because of alcohol. So I decided that I would have a party one night, and I decided, so my buddy, I'll tell a quick story. So he had a Pontiac 6000. I don't remember what year. It might have been like an 89 model, early 90s model. And this is just an ugly little car, but we nicknamed it the Beezer. And we would beeze around town in that thing, man, and we'd have a blast in it. Well, what we'd also do is we'd beeze through the woods on it. We'd take that little front-wheel drive and we'd just floorboard it, and we'd just go through these woods as hard as we could go. And if we got the car stuck, we'd leave it where it was at and come back and get it the next day. If we didn't get stuck, we had a really good time, and we got back out the woods. We didn't care if we hit trees with it, put dents in it. We didn't care much about it. So we had this Beezer out in the woods this night that we had that party after we got real lit up and hammered, and we got it stuck. And he was like, man, I need to ride home. We need to go get the other vehicle so we can leave when it's time to leave. And so I said, man, you know what I can do? I said, I can go inside and go get some keys, and I can drive y'all to get that other car. Problem was, it wasn't my car that I went and took the keys to. I didn't pay anything for that car, but I went and got the keys, and I took them to go get that car. And on the way back, what happened is, it's really sad. It's not funny. I was coming back, and of course, if I wasn't drunk, I'd have probably been more, alert to react differently. But there was a Mercury Mountaineer. It's just a Mercury model of a Ford Explorer, and I'll never forget it. They were coming out of a store, and I was in the fast lane. It had been raining. I had cruise control set, and I was just driving, and this vehicle's coming out, and what looks like to me they're coming to the fast lane. What they was actually doing is trying to cross both lanes to go to this turn lane. And so when I think they're coming to the fast lane, I'm approaching them really fast at 60 miles an hour. So I go, and I was just going to go around them in the turn lane and keep going. Well, they keep coming over, and so I locked the brakes up, and I hit this family at probably at least 55 miles an hour, and they probably weren't going but 5 miles an hour at the most. And what that looked like is they got hurt. A lot of them, it was two children and two parents, and 3 out of 4 went to the hospital in serious condition. And them folks that were following me stopped the car, started screaming my name. I got out the car. Long story short is I got in their car and left the scene. Took the cops a while to figure out whose car it was, where the car come from. They come and see me the next day. And when they knocked on my door, I went to the door, and I was on crutches because I'd hurt my foot real bad. And I had a ball hat on because my head went into the windshield and busted the windshield. And I was in pretty bad shape, and went to the door. And, of course, it was the law. He asked me to come outside. I did. And, he said, boy, what happened to your foot? And I said, man, you wouldn't believe if I told you. I said, I was helping my buddy across the way there move a dresser yesterday, and I dropped it right on my foot. I said, I really done a number to it. He says, oh, okay, is that right? I said, yeah, that's right. And he told me to take my hat off. So I took my hat off, and he said, where'd all them cuts on top of your head come from? I said, man, you wouldn't believe if I told you, but I said, we went out in the Beezer last night out in the woods, and we got it stuck. And when I got out, I fell head first into a patch of briars. And he's like, oh, is that right? I said, yeah, I could carry you back out there and show you. And really what that did is it fueled my ego. It fueled that part of me that thought I was untouchable. they had only circumstantial evidence. They never filed charges on me. I never got in a lick of trouble for doing that. Somebody's car's gone, family hurt, their car's gone, and I just skate away like nothing ever happened, never think about it again. And so by 15 and 16, I'm full-blown alcoholic. I'm drinking every chance I get. My junior year in high school, I'm not playing sports anymore. I'm carrying fists of Jack Black in my book bag, and I go to the vending machine and get me Coca-Cola out, pour half of it off, fill it the rest of the way back up with Jack Daniels. And I was drinking those at school and never got caught, never got suspended for it. So I thought I was smarter than everybody. And I'm doing all of this and still making A's and B's through school. I can only imagine what could have really that looked like had I not partied my way all the way through high school. So, my life was littered with stories like that. I'm not going to get into all of it. So when I was 18, a couple things happened. My dad ended up getting caught. He was doing his time. I did graduate from high school on time like I was supposed to. I got 30 out of 32 possible credits. Two things happened. I was dating this girl, and I know y'all wouldn't believe if I told you, but I ended up getting her pregnant. We like to drink together. And so she ended up getting pregnant, and I ended up making her feel like just the worst one. It was terrible, and told her it wasn't mine, told her she'd been cheating on me, and what it was, I was scared. I was a kid, about to have a kid, and I knew I couldn't take care of a kid, so naturally I just was real mean to her and run her off. And 6 months after that child was alive, that we'd done a DNA test, and they told me it was 99.99% surely my kid. So I said, all right then, and I started trying to mend that relationship with her, and trying to start be what best I could for that youngin'. And something else happened when I was 18 years old. Is this guy that I was trying to help, he come and broke into my house while I was gone. I had a jewelry box of my mother's that her grandmother had given her a bunch of jewelry from the Depression days, and it was sentimental stuff, can't be replaced. And this guy broke in the house, and not only did he steal all of my stuff that was of value, but he got hold to that jewelry box. And once I found out he got hold to that jewelry box, that's when things really changed for the worse for him. And again, I'm still running with these same guys, and I'm still living this lifestyle that we're paying our way out of trouble every time we get in trouble. Wilmington was real corrupt back then. A lot of that stuff come to light in early to mid 2000s, and they straightened a lot of that up. But we could pay our way out of trouble. It was that simple. And so once we found out that guy really done it, long story short, is we premeditated his murder, and we was absolutely gonna carry that out that night. That through a series of circumstances, he ended up getting away from us. He was really, really hurt, and this is one moment that I look back and say, God, he saved me that night. He saved me from pulling the trigger and killing that man and spending the rest of my life in prison. The guy got away. Long and short of it, this ego, this untouchableness, what I ended up walking away with when that man was in ICU for 19 days, they had to bring him back 4 different times. I got 90-day suspended sentence, 2 years probation, no restitution. It cost me $25,000, but I walked away from that situation almost scotch-free. And not proud of that. That guy later on changed his life in the program also and lives a wonderful life nowadays. Last I heard of him, he was doing really well. I think that was the night that kind of changed his life. And not saying it was good that I did it, I'm just saying that good did come out of it. And so I'm with this. I got back with this girl, trying to do the best I can with this, with this child and be a decent person. I had come back to Raleigh after all that stuff happened in Wilmington. My dad was back home. I started working for him again. And I know y'all wouldn't believe if I told you, but me and this girl that was trying to work things out, she got pregnant again. And had a little boy. My first was a little girl, and now we had a little boy. Me and her didn't work out, and she ended up going back to Wilmington with the children, and I would come down and get them, and they'd bring them home. And, I found me another hostage, another woman that I liked, and, she had a little bit of money. She had a car, and that's all it took for me back then. And so, we started hanging out and got into a relationship, and I know you wouldn't believe if I told you, but I got her pregnant. And now I got a daughter, a son, and a daughter on the way. We had that child, and now I'm working for my dad. I'm making really good money. I have a place to live. We have vehicles to drive. Lights are on. Everything that my kids need and want, they got. And, it looks good from the outside in, and I'm just dying on the inside. And, it wasn't long, probably a year after I had that third child, and they ain't going to believe me if I told you, but I got that girl pregnant again. And that was the last child that I had. But I do have 4 wonderful, beautiful children, and I had another little boy. So I got 2 boys and 2 girls, and they're by 2 different women. And things are getting bad. In 2009, it was a normal day. I went to my dad's house. He was really hammered, and he was outside doing something. I was like, Dad, just need to go in and go to sleep. So I walked him around to the front of the house. I hugged his neck, kissed him on the cheek, said, I'll see you in the morning for work. Little did I know when I left that house that evening, that was the last time I'd ever see my dad alive. He died that night as a direct result of alcoholism. And I was 23 years old, and, we had just got things back right. Him and mother was back together. He was raising my nephew. I mean, that was a tough spot in my life. And so I went deeper, darker, harder, faster, doing the best I can with these kids, but I'm not doing good. I reached out for the first time for some help in 2010. That's obviously not my sobriety date. I went to a place local up in Raleigh, a treatment center. I stayed for 30 days, and this is absolutely where I can verify that self-will and knowledge of this program will not help you. I stayed there for 30 days. I felt better, put a few pounds on from the food they was feeding me, and I left that place under the exact, my mission was I'm going home, back to work, and I'm going to love my family. I'm going to save this relationship, and I'm going to support my kids like I'm supposed to. I was drunk that night. And I can tell you this, once I was drunk that night, I had to go. So I packed my stuff in little bags that I had, and I left the house, and I let them kids stay there, and I let that lady stay there. And I got out of their life, and what that looked like from 2010 to 2013 when I got pregnant, I was incarcerated probably 90% of the time. I can tell you this, I stayed in prison for a whole year, and I made these plans, and I had these ideas, and I'd write this stuff down, and I'd go to meetings while I was in there, and I'd go to church while I was in there, and I was coming out of there, and I was going to do great. I was going to reunite with my children. I was going to be a good guy. The day that I got out, within 20 minutes of being out, I had the great idea that I needed some liquor. And by the time I made it back home to Raleigh, where somebody had found me a place to stay while I was getting ready to get released, no doings of my own, people's helping me. I go to the liquor store that night, and I get me a half gallon of liquor. Now, I don't know why I couldn't just get a little bottle or, a pint-sized bottle, but in my head, I needed that big bottle, and what that looked like for me is y'all already know, I couldn't stop again. And so the year of 2013, I'd get in more trouble, I'd catch more charges, and I was looking at another prison sentence. I told my attorney in November of 2013 to activate my sentence next time we go to court, and I just want to go do my time. I've been to prison, I'm comfortable there. It ain't the best place, but I can make it in there. I'm good. I got to go back to get my life together. And God had a different plan. I reached out again for help on December 9th of 2013, and 2 men come pick me up and put me in a Suburban. I was too intoxicated to walk. They carried me to this detox facility, and I walked in there, and I was laughing, and I was joking, and I was having a great time, and they gave me a breathalyzer test, and I blew a .389. And the man behind the desk said, Jason, it doesn't scare me to see your blood alcohol level this high. I've seen this before. He said, but what scares me is how coherent you are. You're in here laughing, thinking you're a jokester, and I can promise you if you keep drinking like this, you will not live much longer. And something happened to me. On December 9th, I like to say it was the gift of desperation that only divine intervention could have gave me. I was as hammered as I was, and I seen just as clear as day that I was going to die in a room with the door locked, with stuff on the desk right there, and a bottle of liquor right there in my hand. I knew I was going to die just like that. And something inside of me, even though on my drunkest days and my worst days, there's a little something inside of me that loved me. I still loved me, and I still had just the smallest glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could figure out how to stop this. And so when I reached out for help, and I woke up on December 10th of 2013 in that rehab facility on the detox bed, and I woke up and I come to, and I was sober for the first time in a while. And I can tell you that I've been sober every day since. waking up that morning. And what that looked like for me is I asked for help. And I've asked for help every day since that day. And instead of messing around and just trying to, make it through the program, I asked the man to sponsor me. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. He started talking about God, and I said, no, you don't understand. I don't need God. I don't have a relationship with God. And he said, do you believe that I believe? I said, well, it's clear you believe something, because you're walking around smiling, you're happy, and you look like you got your life together, man. I'm laying here in a detox facility not knowing what I'm fixing to do. And so we started, it was that simple. He asked me some questions. I agreed to his terms of sponsorship. And we started right there, and we started reading the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the doctor's opinion, believe it or not, explained to me the things that I could never put into words. What happened to me when I drank. Why I drank differently from someone else. The feelings that I could never explain was explained to me in the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And for the first time in a long time, I knew I was probably in the right spot, and I really knew it in my heart. And so I stayed in this facility for 11 months. I stayed at that rehabilitation center for 11 months, and I needed every day that I was there. And so it starts my journey into sobriety. I'm 5.5 months sober. Things are going great. And I get a call, and I get a letter, and I got to go to court in Wilmington. Okay, so I line up. This lady from a church house got me, drove me down to Wilmington. Now, I had built a relationship with these children up until about 2012 to this point. And when I went down to the court here, and I was in no position to take them children and take care of them, and the judge took my parental rights to those children at 5.5 months sober, and it was rough. And I told the lady that took me down there, I cried more than I'd cried ever in that day since my dad died. And I said, I just need to get back. Let's don't stop. I just need to get back to the healing place. And she took me back there, and I immediately reached out to everybody, my sponsor, the men that cared about me, to my home group, and the men of Alcoholics Anonymous carried me when I couldn't walk, and they walked me through that. And my sponsor started telling me consistency is the only thing that's going to matter from this part forward with them children. And God had a different plan with those children too, and I'll get to that in just a minute. So I finished this place. I silver chipped the program, which means I'm an alumni, which means I have full rights to this whole property. I can go back anytime I want to. I can sponsor guys there if I want to. I can go have lunch, breakfast, dinner there if I want to. If I ever become homeless again, then I can go back there and live if I need to. I'm a member of that facility for life now. And, for the first year I was out of that place, I was living in a recovery home with other men, and I think I can count on one hand how many days I missed from going back to that facility. And I was sponsoring like 17 guys at one time, and I was just on fire for Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was taking all of my time up. And I'll never forget it. I was talking to Susie D, and I said, Susie, man, it's killing me. How do you sponsor all these people? And she sat me down and explained to me how I could pair these people up, and I could read as a group, and then I do step work individually. People taught me how to do this, and you wouldn't believe it, but I started trying it, and it worked out very well. So, I was sponsoring a lot of guys. I had a lot of free time. I wasn't making much money at the time. I remember sitting on the front porch of that recovery house and just thinking, God, is this all it was? I was, a year and a half, 2 years sober, and it seemed like I wasn't going nowhere quick. I was happy, and I had a place to live, and I had what I needed. But those children at the beach, I didn't have a relationship with those. The ones that were in Raleigh, it was starting to build back, but that's slow progress as well. So I got a job at a tree company. I'm devoted to this place. I start making better money, and I was revoked permanently twice in the state of North Carolina, and I waited my time out. I paid my fines off, and I had a DMV hearing, and I had a couple guys from AA that went with me to the DMV hearing, and believe it or not, those men were able to walk inside and tell that hearing lady the truth, that they had never seen me operate a motor vehicle, because I had bought a moped, and I rode that moped for 2.5 years because the men in my home group told me I wasn't allowed to drive a car. And I said, what do you mean? I thought I was going to get me a little car, put my seatbelt on everywhere I go, and drive careful, That was my mentality. And they said, that ain't how it works. It's hard to live on a spiritual basis, on a daily basis, knowing every time you get in that car in the morning, you're breaking the law as soon as you strap that seatbelt on. You're going out and you're doing wrong first thing in the morning. You can't do both. So I said, all right, I got that moped, and I rode it religiously. Rain, shine, cold, hot, it didn't matter. If I needed to get to home group and I didn't have a ride, I rode that moped. And I was devoted. So the state of North Carolina decided I could have my driver's license back. And this is important because this is a big shift in my life. This is when I got mobile. And believe it or not, God brought everything back to me in the time frame that it was supposed to happen. I started communicating with the children in Wilmington through letters. When it was finally available for me to go have lunch with them, I had a driver's license, and I had a blow box in that truck that I hated, but guess what? I was able to get to Wilmington on my own without nobody carrying me down there. And what it looked like with them children at first is I'd just go for lunch, and I'd have to turn around and drive back to Raleigh. But I was getting an hour and a half with them kids at a play place, and I'm starting to build this relationship back with them. And my sister come into recovery. You know, she went to the Women's Healing Place, and she finished that program. She's an alumni over there. My mother called me, and I was able to, with a home group member and his wife, we was able to go 12-step my mother and bring her out of a situation that was absolutely horrible. When we got there, escorted by the law. Now, I'd never called the law to escort me somewhere. They'd always escorted me to jailhouse, okay? But it was the right thing to do to have them people meet us there to go into that bad situation. And I took the suggestion, and it turned out really well. I took my mother to the healing place as well for the women's. Although she didn't finish, she's 5.5 years sober today. So my sister got sober, my mother got sober, my children are coming back into my life. I'm making better money. I got a driver's license. And I know y'all wouldn't believe you if I told you, but life was fixing to get even better. I got an opportunity. It was a lucrative opportunity that was presented to me, and I had the opportunity to go into business for myself. So I was scared. I was making decent money. I had full benefits. I had paid vacation, and I was scared, but talked to my sponsor. We prayed about it. I didn't make a decision in one day. We went about it like we were supposed to, and a little over 3 years later, I'm still self-employed and doing really well for myself. I got men that work with me, that work for me from the program. Try to grab somebody and carry them with me. I want to excel him to run a crew for me, so then I can get another crew to get going. I just want to keep building. I want to use people out of recovery that wants to change their life that look just like I did back then. It's possible. So I'm running out of time, but what that relationship with those kids looked like, God continued to work in my life. The more that I sought Him, the more that I tried to do what He would have me do, the more men that I tried to sponsor, the more faithful I was to my home group. Just all the things that I kept trying to do. I started coming to the CFCs 5 years ago. I haven't missed one since. I'm trying to get into prison work. I've been denied 5 times. They still don't let me in. Now we're under COVID. But, I had a lead at the last CFC this year to get into Johnston, and then that was as the COVID was starting. So obviously I hadn't been able to follow that lead now, but I still got the guy's number, and I'm going to try because that's where my heart's at is in prison work. But so I'm getting more time with these kids, and I'm getting to where I'm able to go meet in public, get them, and we're able to go do something, and I got a time frame, but I meet back in public, and they go back home. To where I'm getting them in the morning, I keep them all day, and then I meet in public, and they go back home to the time that their biological aunt, who adopted them, said, "Jason, would you like to know where we lived at?" And holy cow, I cried that day. I said, absolutely I would. And so that turned into me being allowed to go to their house and hang out with them. And if we wanted to go somewhere, we could. If we didn't have to. And so this relationship is just prospering. My relationship with my kids up here are prospering. Now I'm able to take my kids from here down there, and all the brothers and sisters get to play. Last Christmas was the first Christmas I had all 4 of my babies together in one house. That was the Christmas of 2018, And so my sister didn't stay on the path with us. She had some slips, and she got back out there. And remember how I told you that God gave me that opportunity. Last words and things I did with my dad was hug him, kiss him on the cheek, told him I loved him. I seen my sister at Walmart parking lot. And me and her hadn't talked a lot. She would tell my mom, I know he's disappointed in me. I'm so ashamed. I know my brother's disappointed in me, Mom. I should be doing better. I don't want to talk to him because I know he's disappointed. And I told my sister, I don't care where you're at, where you need to go, what it looks like, how it is. When you're ready, you call me. And I'm coming no matter where you're at. We're going to go wherever you need to go. And so I seen her in the Walmart parking lot, and she was fixing to walk past me and not speak. And God tapped me on the shoulder and said, don't do that. And so I spoke to my sister, and it wasn't a long conversation, probably 2 or 3 minutes. But before she parted her way and I went my way, I hugged my sister's neck, I kissed her on the cheek, and I told her I loved her. And I didn't know that would be the last time I'd see my sister alive either. On December 28th of 2018, we got a phone call, and they had found my sister. Somebody had dumped her in a ditch, whoever she was with that night. They had direct result of alcoholism. And I called my sponsor immediately. I went to my mother immediately, and I was able to be there for my mother 3 days after Christmas, and I was able to help and guide and walk with my mother through that whole situation. And I tell you what, the program of Alcoholics Anonymous wrapped us so tight and carried both of us until we had solid ground below us again. And I can tell you one thing, and it's the most beautiful thing ever. I never one time thought about taking a drink when my sister passed away. Never one time did it cross my mind that that was a good idea. And that's a direct result of Alcoholics Anonymous and the things I've been taught. So last year I was able to purchase my own house. I bought a home in Garner, North Carolina. I'm able to bring those children from Wilmington to my house up in Raleigh and Garner. The gifts are endless. My life is way better than I deserved, because if I got what I deserved back when I was 18 years old, I'd be in prison for life, or I'd be dead by now. And I can tell you the only thing that I've continued to do is I've remained sponsored, and I've remained faithful to a home group, and that's the Principals Group of Raleigh. It's the only home group I've ever had. And they raised me up right there, and I go to all the conventions that I can get to. I go to all the conferences that I can get to. I do everything that I can possibly do in Alcoholics Anonymous, because for a guy like me, this is the only thing that I've ever had a good life at. I heard somebody say one time, AA will give you a life that'll take you away from AA, and there was a guy that was an old-timer right beside me. He says, I hate that saying. I said, why is that? He said, because AA has given me a life that absolutely makes me want to stay in AA. And I felt that when he said that, and I said, I like that, because AA has yet to give me a life that makes me want to run away from it. Why would I? I mean, my life is beautiful today as a direct result of Alcoholics Anonymous and the 12 steps and the principles and the concept and all the way down to everything. Why would I want to get away from it? But my life is absolutely amazing today. I spend time with my children, my mother. My mother's raising my sister's son. He's 17, so he's fixing to be grown, and life is just absolutely amazing, and it's nothing short of a miracle of God's grace and mercy that a guy like me can stand in front of y'all and give an AA talk. Thank you so much. I know Waylon's not here, but Steve, thank you for introducing me. Thank you all for being here and giving me an opportunity to be here. I really enjoyed it, and I hope somebody got something out of what I said. Thank y'all.